Welcome back to another episode of Backyard Conversations. And this week I have a very special guest, and it's a friend of mine and also someone I respect in the industry. Have Jim Frederick with Tru-Scapes Lighting. And Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing really good. I hope I can live up to that introduction today, Craig. Thank you.
Well, it's all true. So if you wouldn't mind, take a couple minutes, tell us kind of what you do, a little bit of your background in the industry, and kind of how you got hooked up with Tru-Scapes, and kind of tell us how Tru-Scapes has kind of come to the market with the relationship with Belgard.
Yeah. We can go back a couple of years into my background in the industry. I think it's shaped who I am today and where I sit today with this company. So my background got into the hardscape landscape industry in college, and chose a pathway with a degree from Penn State in landscape contracting, which gave me a pretty well-rounded background in terms of design, construction, and business management. And got out of school, went into the design build portion of our industry, which allowed me to be in the trenches, we'll say, and understand what you guys go through on a daily basis.
Sure.
After a few years of that, I transitioned into the dealer arena. I felt a call into distribution and working for a local dealer in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Take what I learned in the field and translate that to working behind the counter and doing some outside sales for a local dealer. Next logical step was, hey, I want to become a rep. I want to get out into a larger arena, a larger area than Southeast Pennsylvania. So took a position with a lighting company, another lighting company. Was a rep for a few years regionally here in the Mid-Atlantic, and through some twists and turns, ended up landing here at Tru-Scapes. And this company started about 7 years ago. Was started by two contractors who I know personally, and helped actually when I was a dealer. They were two of my really good customers, and they saw the value in landscape lighting portion of our industry. Called me up one day and said, "Hey, we're going to start a lighting company." And I said, "You guys are nuts. How are we going to play with the big kids?" And they weren't. They were serious. And so went home, talked to my wife about it. She told me I was a little nuts. And here we are, 6 years later,
Yeah.
with a national brand. So it's been a crazy ride. We literally started this company in the back of my boss's, in his backyard,
Sure.
working out of 40-foot sea containers for storage and building pallets on a stone driveway. It was an adventure in the beginning, loading trucks with a skid steer. And it's come a long way. And you had mentioned part of that growth came along that partnership with Belgard and Oldcastle. And I think you've had some strong personalities here, from some great people from Oldcastle on your podcast, namely Joe Raboyne, who saw a vision in terms of providing this outdoor living solution to contractors, and we just happened to be in the right place at the right time. So here we are 6 years later, working with the biggest hardscape country in the country. So
and that's how we met, and our paths crossed. I think I'm gonna tell this story because I think it's kind of funny. So when we first met, I was working for Site One. I don't know if you remember this or not. You claimed not to last time I said something about it, but I thought I was a big shot at Site One because I was, buyer for hardscapes and that kind of stuff. And we were at a Belgard University or something in Kansas City. And I think that was the first year that you guys did the lighting with Belgard and kind of did the tour with them. So you were here in town, and
the brewery with Craig there in Kansas City.
Yeah, at the Boulevard Brewing. Yep. Yes, exactly. And good event. And then I was like walking around all the vendors and doing my thing, and I was like, you were showing the lights, and I was like, yeah, we're Site One. We have so many light vendors. We'll probably never see a need for this. I think that's what I said to you. So it's a good way to get to know each other.
Yeah.
So I did take a step back and realized that I was kind of a stupid thing to say, but a couple of years, I think it was at that same Belgard U that I ran into somebody representing Mirage at that event who was not with Mirage. And I was like, what are you doing here? And they're like, well, I'm filling in. We're looking for a Mirage rep for, the central US. So from that, I kind of took a um, kind of an interest in that position,
Mhm.
and then pursued that. So maybe my attitude towards you was a little bit of my attitude. I had kind of gotten working with Site One, and it's nothing bad. It's kind of some of it on my own, some of it just me as an entrepreneur trying to work for a large company and move a large ship, and just it was more about frustrations in that than the company itself. But when I look back on that time, it was an interesting time in my career. But it led me to the position with Mirage, and then we started seeing each other all over the place after that. So,
Yeah, the
um,
tour.
yes, the tour every year, the tour. So anyway, we got to know each other, and I've always appreciated talking to you. And we were kind of the guys that were kind of all over the place. You know, myself and other Mirage reps. I'm sure you've seen
Mhm.
all over the place as well. So both great products that, and I think we related to each other because we didn't work for Belgard. We were vendors of Belgard trying to
Mhm.
partner up with them and share our product as well. So kind of talk about like what's your role? Are you technically the U.S. sales manager? Is that your role or?
It's always a great question in a small company, right?
Yeah,
What's
exactly.
what do you want to put on your
What don't
business
you do?
card, right? Um, that's interesting. I'm thinking a lot about having this call, this podcast with you, and this talk, and I knew you were going to bring that up as to what my role is. And just this morning, 7:30 a.m., we were unloading a shipment of product in our warehouse, and I'm here with the team doing that. I can't always be here to do that, but when you're in a small business, and you know this exceptionally well, you become a part of every piece of that business, right?
Right. Yeah.
Whatever you put on your business card doesn't really reflect always what you're involved in, whether it's warehouse work, whether it's uh, leading a sales team, uh, Belgard of any of these events that we attend in education and so forth. And so I don't really know exactly what my title is. It's Tru-Scapes Jim, I guess. um, but it's part of the excitement of what I do here in this company is being a part of every aspect of it, helping it grow. Uh, Again, but the challenge to that is letting go of some of these pieces as we've
Right.
built our team, and we have a great warehouse manager. I've got great coworkers on my sales team, and we're evolving and growing, monthly. So it's finding that space where you best excel, and where you can help the team, and learning to let go of those things that you no longer need to be a part of.
Right.
And I have a challenge with that. I've helped build this. It's my baby, and it's really something I'm proud of. So sometimes I get myself in business I don't need to be in here, driving my
Right.
team a little crazy.
Yeah.
But you're in a similar position. You're growing a company, and um, you're there, right? You're there
Right.
every day, and teaching your guys, and lifting them up to be a part of it. But it's hard to let go sometimes.
Right. And I think similar to my position at Mirage, when we were traveling to like Belgard universities or going to do dealer visits or all that kind of stuff, we're educating the end user, like the contractor, as much as we were the Belgard reps, because there was four of us at the time at Mirage that covered the whole country. So
Mhm.
I covered 16 to 17 states, depending on the time frame, but and then we had somebody covering the West and somebody covering the Northeast and the Southeast. And so what happens is we get, and I think you have about four now, or you have a few more than that now.
Yeah, but there's five of us, if I'm included, running around the country right now,
Right.
talking about our products. Yeah.
So it's difficult for us to be like in the trenches all the time. We're more like, or in my case, when I was at Mirage, we were more like just um, mostly helping the Belgard reps, right?
Mhm.
And then they would take our message out and they would add that on as something that they could offer to their contractors, dealers, homeowners, etc. So it was an interesting relationship, and the way we covered our territory was a little bit different because we could basically make this happen with the Belgard reps that we worked with, and then they could
Mhm.
take it on. But then we also got to build relationships with contractors, and you're still doing that, and dealers and all that. So these events are pretty interesting, and they can have anywhere from 50 to 400 people at them, and that's an opportunity for you to get in front of those contractors and stuff. So what's the message that you try to give in 10-minute spiel or sitting there at a table, people walking by
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of thing. I know
and
it's kind of like a trade show every day.
yep, yep, and to sort of run with where you're at, the model of what you did at Mirage and what we're doing with Tru-Scapes is not the typical in our industry.
Right.
Typically,
Yeah.
a manufacturer has a team of reps out in the country covering specific territories. But with this partnership with Belgard and Oldcastle, it's been a little bit of a growing experience for all of us. I think for us as well as them as a team, because some of these reps that have been selling these products for 10, 15 years had a pretty I don't know, I want to say it, a narrow focus in terms of what they represented and what they had to be trained on and familiar with,
Right.
versus now all of a sudden we're taking all these ancillary products and we're throwing it into their portfolio of what they need to know. And they're not experts on porcelain. They're not experts typically on lighting. And some of these, again, it's continuing to grow right now.
Right.
I think Oldcastle has a grill line, right? Well, these guys aren't all experts on that, right? So it's been a lot. I've met a lot of reps who have done a really good job. It's just been a lot of additional products that they need to be aware of in the last 3 to 4 years.
Right.
Then throw COVID on top of that, right? Where all of a sudden the industry's just gone bonkers. And
Yes.
so, we're all just trying to keep up,
Right.
So
Without going anywhere.
Yeah, it's been a really neat, I don't know if experiment's the right word for it, but experience.
Yes. Experience. Yeah.
Part of the challenge I have is, as a small team, we're spread pretty thin, and I feel like I have lost touch with some of those personal relationships with contractors because I'm running around everywhere trying to support Oldcastle's team, which they're doing a great job. They have those personal relationships. We're really there as the backup, right? We're the support,
Right.
the expert witness
Yep.
when it comes to questions. So it's been a fun partnership. It's been a growth, definitely a growth over the last 5 years, with I think more to go. I think
Yep.
as this industry continues to embrace the outdoor living mindset. And even as we travel, and I know you've had an opportunity to get outside of the Midwest with your new role as owner of a company, but also as an educational support person for Oldcastle at certain events.
Yep.
Different parts of the country are in different places.
Yeah.
I always feel like when I fly down to Florida, it's an industry that's a few years behind. It's not the outdoor living complete packages is not completely embraced down there. Whereas here in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, when Mrs. Smith calls a contractor, they want the full package.
Right.
The model that you have built is when your customer calls you, they want it all, right? They want
Right. Yeah.
to cover it. If there's a drainage line to be moved, you're moving the drainage line.
Yep.
If there's an electrical issue to be dealt with, you're supporting that. Some portions of our market, I think mostly the Sun Belt, we'll call it. It's a much more fragmented industry where there's paver guys and there's lighting guys and there's irrigation.
Yep.
So it's been interesting.
I think there's still a place for those too, because, somebody like me that may want to grow and do more of these projects a year, we may start, incorporating some subs that we would trust or trusted, contractors. Obviously they would have to fit our level of craftsmanship and integrity and, all those things. And I think that, that's potentially something where there are some companies that are comfortable creating this, whole package experience for people. And then there's some that maybe shouldn't take on that role, because it's, I'm battling through, a lot of different things. It's logistics, it's getting things ordered properly, it's keeping the guys busy. It's, cash flow. You get the big jobs always look like a lot of fun, but to be honest, there's a lot that goes on that's stressful. That can be just, in some ways, the same amount of stress or more than taking on 60 jobs a year. So, so there's challenges in every aspect, and I think what's interesting is that when you see people doing large projects, you just see it. Oh, wow, that looks really cool. We should do something like that. But I think you really have to have a real understanding of, every aspect of the project, and I think that's something that I've had, experience in excavation, and I I installed septic tanks and sewers for a company when I was in high school. I've done carpentry, trim work, framed houses, remodeled, hardscape, landscaped, now done pools and stuff. So I was in those industries long enough, or the whole construction industry, I guess, long enough to be able to create, um, you know, a background that suits what I'm
Mhm.
taking on. So, and then I partnered myself with, a good plumber and a good electrician and a fence company and all these things that we don't do, but we can offer as part of what we do. So we're always looking at different ways to, and talking with our crew about how we can expand. So, but lighting is definitely something that I can, I say that's great to add on because most of the time our clients are in their backyards in the evening and they really want to enjoy the experience. And I take that to it, to the level of if somebody says, let's cut the lighting, I say, let's cut anything else but the lighting. And
Yeah.
that's the truth. I've actually done that. I said, we were on a project and they're like, we need to cut this a little bit. Can we just take out the lighting? I said, I'll let you take out anything else, but don't take out the lighting. I said, you're going to enjoy this thing at night and you're going to be really upset when you go out there and you're turning on your spotlight on the side of your house to light this up. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they'll appreciate that kind of guidance. So what are you seeing? Um, before we got on, we were kind of talking about education. What are you seeing
Yeah.
in the industry as far as our landscapers and hardscapers taking these opportunities? And then how are they doing with those opportunities?
Yeah, and I think you touched on a few really really key elements there. One understanding your skill set and understanding the scope of work that you can provide at a quality level, effective like, at an effective level, right? So as we were just talking about briefly, we're all embracing this outdoor living concept of providing all these pieces to the puzzle, but some contractors may not feel comfortable with some of these aspects that may be early on in their career. They may be starting a new company. They may not feel comfortable selling certain products. So it's really, I think, one, being self-aware of what you're good at and what you feel comfortable providing and the type of business model. Your model is different than some other companies that are doing smaller projects. Maybe the lighting is getting cut, so forth. I think the clientele that you have adapted to is seeing the value of all these pieces. I had another podcast a while back, and there's two distinct schools in the lighting world. There's the hardscape landscapers that have embraced it over the last maybe 5 to 10 years. And then there is a whole group of lighting professionals
Right.
that do just unbelievable projects that,
Yes.
you and I couldn't even imagine. Right. And I was on a podcast with a professional in that side of the industry, and he had this concept. He called it the bucket theory. And his bucket theory was a client that maybe you or I would meet with, and they're looking at the scope of the project. Maybe let's say it's a $60,000 project, and there's different buckets on that project. There's so much for the hardscaping. The client has a vision of how much they want to spend on this outdoor kitchen, and then the lighting. And they may envision with you or I that they're going to spend $5,000 on lighting. That's where they're kind of at with it. But that might be the limit we have in the bucket. But an outdoor lighting professional may come in and they may have a different vision of the size of that bucket, right? They may be
Right.
prepared to spend more money. And so the point of it was that you can also create partnerships in our industry where for projects that we feel comfortable working within the hardscape and installing hardscape lights, maybe we dabble a little bit in accent or path lights, but there may be an opportunity out there to have a partnership with a lighting professional in your area. Maybe somebody in Kansas City that has a lighting company, and they may
Right.
come in there and have a different level of trust or comfort with that client and be able to sell 3 times as much lighting as you, but have that partnership so that they understand that you trust them, that they're going to not take business from you, but you may end up with more business in the end with that partnership. So I always thought that was a neat concept that, one, we do want to bring in as much of the project as we can to us personally for our business, but sometimes even looking outside of that. Like I don't know anything about irrigation, right? Just flat
That's
out, I'm
that's a
not an
weakness for
irrigation.
me too. Yeah.
Right. So who we're going to call? We're going to call an irrigation professional
Yeah.
who's going to come in and provide that service. So I think lighting can be the same way. What I mentioned to you before was we spent the last 5 to 10 years telling every hardscaper he should do lighting, and we've created this army of lighting installers that maybe don't fully understand all the proper techniques, don't feel comfortable going outside of the patio to install accent and path lights around the home.
Right.
And so I think where I'm at right now in my vision and mission for this industry is, one, I work for a company that sells lights. So I do have a priority in life to sell product and further my company and make a
Yes.
living,
Yes.
right? But I think doing it in a way that is helping other contractors grow their business and understanding our products, understanding the right way to install it, understanding how to sell it,
Right.
understanding lighting design. I think that's really what I enjoy about it. And you when I'm going around the country to these Belgard universities or other training events, that's my message. I'm here to help you grow your business. I'm here to help you do it well. Lighting just happens to be the vehicle that I have to help you do that.
Right.
So, but
And I was at a event in Texas a little over a year ago, and it was kind of giving a whole kind of hardscape at down at WizQ, and it's great guys down there, and they were like, we really need to talk about lighting, and I said, I got to the lighting portion, I was like, show of hands, who's doing lighting, and there was probably 40 or 50 people there, and I think 2 raised their hand, and um, I was like, you need to start like right now. This this is
yeah, yeah.
I said we're creating hardscape, backyard spaces, even if it's like fire pit, seat wall, the standard kind of, backyard. I mean, those are great spaces. Like that's what I have in my house. I have a nice little patio. I have a sitting wall. I have a fire pit, and I don't have a kitchen or a pool, or I just have a nice simple little space it's lit well with some nice accent lights, and it really makes a big difference when you go out there and you can enjoy that without having big lights on, bugs flying everywhere, and it just creates it just takes your space to a different level at night. You get the
Mhm.
fire going and all that. So, and that's kind of what I was trying to explain is like it's really a and it's a low barrier of entry. Yes, you need to
Mhm.
have some knowledge and education, and I think that's where the dealers and people like yourself come in, and you helping the reps you work with to pass that message along. It's not just I mean, you have to know what size transformer to buy,
Mhm.
what kind of connectors to have, the right tools, how to check volts and different things like that. So like um so I just to me it's a very important part of what we do, and um it adds $5,000 to $15,000 onto the projects we do,
Mhm.
depending on how elaborate we take it. But then I was thinking, and Travis and I were talking a couple weeks ago, it's like we're doing all this back work in the back, it's like we need to get a demo kit and set up the front,
Mhm.
like people are pulling up to their houses are not well lit all the time, and maybe they threw some solars in or something when they built the
Yeah.
house or when they moved in, or they ran over a couple or they're tilted the wrong way. And I was like, man, that's a whole nother opportunity. Like we have, Travis is kind of skilled on the lights and he loves
Mhm.
doing it. So I'm like, why aren't we pursuing this as an opportunity? So that probably comes into what you were just talking about, where it's one thing to throw some hardscape lights in, but then you kind of need to have a knack for the design and layout, because you can get a little crazy with lighting. I mean, is it a less is more kind of thing, or
Yeah.
how
I
would
mean,
you say that
and
on the design?
I think I often repeat exactly what you said when I'm doing a seminar. It's how often I've gone onto properties to see these amazing hardscape projects, and the contractor's excited to show me that he had put 40 hardscape lights in and some dollars. And we're walking down the front walkway, and I'm tripping over the Costco lights. Right. So again, I
Uh,
think we can all do a better. We can all open our eyes to the opportunities on the properties that we're on. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because
I
the
think we all
client.
assume that people are going to walk out the back door.
Yes.
In some cases, I mean, luckily, when we've designed like paths around the backside or whatever, we've lit them up. But you're exactly right. Like people might say, "Hey, take the gate," or they might open the gate and they say, "Take the yard around. We'll be in the back." That
Mhm.
way, they're not somebody inside answering the door. So like, how do they get there? And I've walked. I do some. Uh, I'll tie the music in here. I do some gigs at a lake, okay,
Hmm.
and I play music. So me and my guitar player usually take all this equipment down this hill, and it's a rocky, hill, and they have these uplights, and they just blind you, like as you're
Hmm.
walking down. And we're carrying speakers and sound equipment, guitar cases, that kind of stuff. It's like there's all it's lit, I guess, but it's also directed
Hmm.
right at people's faces. So
Right.
it's a challenge. So I think it is important to have
Is it
good
lit or
design and
is it lit or is it lit well?
right.
And
Yes.
and honestly, that I think that's a challenge we're a cliff we're at right now in our industry is there is this segregated section like group of lighting like gurus, right? I mean, these
Right.
guys live it, breathe it, love it. They offer these very intensive classes on landscape lighting design. That's amazing to me, right? There's a core group of people that appreciate that, and but that level of clientele that appreciates that type of work is a very small percentage of our industry, right?
Right.
That's the movie stars, right? That's the $1 million backyards.
Right.
The arena that we live in, which is a prime majority of our industry, there really isn't a lot of opportunity in terms of design education and teaching, other than the manufacturers getting out there and showing boots on the ground, helping out, and that's interesting. When I'm on some social media groups, and there's some lighting groups and some hardscape groups, and every week or two we'll get one that's what lighting brand should I use, be a hardscaper, what brand should I use, and inevitably every manufacturer's rep says their name of their
Oh
company,
yeah.
or
Sure.
and my
They're just
response
like
always,
you.
yeah,
Yeah.
my response typically, and I try to be a part of those groups in terms of education. People know where I work. If they click on my link, they're going to see what products I sell.
Right.
But my response typically is, connect yourself with a good local dealer and rep that will educate you and be a resource for you in that area, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You can order stuff online, you can order stuff across the country, but that's the reason we have dealers, right? That's the reason we have local representation for products. It's those connections that are going to help you learn better techniques for design, better
Right.
techniques for installation. Let's talk about, it's amazing to me what you and I assume are basic skills in terms of installing, let's say putting wire nuts on wire.
Yeah.
I've been to job sites where guys don't even twist the wire nuts, they just push them on. Nobody ever told them that you're supposed to twist the wire nut.
Right.
Now, is that the new guy's fault? It wasn't the new guy's fault. It's
Right.
just we assumed that he knew. So yeah, you mentioned barrier. Cost of entry to our industry is not excessive. Having some basic tools,
Right.
but go out and buy the basic tools. Don't
Yes.
use your Felcos to cut the wire.
Right.
Don't use your tongue to check the voltage.
Pocket
Let's
knife. Yeah. That kind of
yeah,
stuff.
buy a few tools. When I have when a customer calls me and has an issue on a job site, I start asking a couple questions. Do you have a voltmeter?
Right.
What meter? Well,
Yeah.
let if you want me to help you troubleshoot, and the challenge we're having now as a manufacturer is if we have an issue on a job site, homeowner walks outside, their lights don't come on tonight, they didn't go on last night. They walk around, they look at the transformer, they see Tru-Scapes. They go on the web, they Google us, and they call us. And I got one this morning. My lights didn't turn on. What do I do?
Right.
Okay, it's a customer in, I don't know, North Carolina. Lights didn't come on. What do I do? And my auto response typically is, can you call the installer and have them help walk you through this?
Right.
And more often than not, I get the installer's not calling me back, or I just bought this house and I don't know who to call.
Right.
If I was a professional installer, I would have my sticker inside the transformer, so
That's
that
a great idea.
when Mrs. Smith goes out and the lights don't come on, they flip that door open and they're going to call you. You're going to come back out and solve their problem, and you might even sell some more lights.
Yeah.
Hey, so again, I think education, follow up, and maintenance is another big push I have right now. Is nothing that we do as an industry is maintenance free.
Right.
Patios need touch ups every couple of years. There's cleaning and sealing opportunities. There is if you have any kind of wood structure or anything that you built, there may be staining there. Everything that we do requires some level of maintenance.
Right.
Why do we assume that these lights are going to last forever? So I think follow up, customer engagement, taking responsibility for your work.
Yeah.
Yeah. The basics, right?
Well, I think it's interesting because as you were talking about that, I was kind of thinking, we have all these people out doing education on, how to get into hardscapes and how to, you know, I think that's the biggest push is hardscape, what materials to use, how to calculate, how to do a wall, how to do this or that. And sometimes we forget about the lights,
Mhm.
or we forget about, how to properly plant a tree or, how to square up a pergola or, how to set up an outdoor kitchen. It's
Mhm.
like there's all these accessories that we offer and we kind of have to guess, on the accessories sometimes. We're like, oh, what do we do? Like as I mentioned earlier, like I've done enough remodeling. I wired up my own shop at my old house, and every basement I've done, I remodeled and wired, actual electricity. So like
Mhm.
to me, it's and that like you're saying, it's like we just you know as somebody like me, and I'm working on this with my crew. Even is like everything is in a way second nature, or like I've done it before, and I can figure it out because it's similar to something I've done before, and I just assume that they would be able to do the same thing when they
Mhm.
haven't necessarily, wired up a plug or,
Mhm.
or done any lighting or, how do we set up the light so it's focused in the right direction, but, and getting the right, position and all that stuff. And how do we make it more of an accent than just sticking a path light right over the sidewalk or something, there's a lot of different things to think about in a lot of different parts of the industry for, accessorizing and things like that. And then, like you said, like I struggle with irrigation, so I mean, I could probably figure it out, but I don't want to. So it's not something I'm passionate about. So I usually call an irrigation
Call an
company and say,
expert,
"Hey,
right?
hey, come
Yeah.
fix the mess I made,"
Yeah.
or like I'm not going to put my company on the line by just going ahead and hooking up all these electrical like breakers and all this stuff we need for pools and different things. I call a licensed electrician. So there's a level of way you can take what you are, I guess, capable of, experienced in, or if necessary, licensed in, to a certain extent, and then you have to kind of branch out to other people.
Yeah. I mean, in essence, we're becoming an industry of GCs.
Yeah,
These
yeah,
projects are much more complicated than they were 20 years ago. I mean, an outdoor
right,
kitchen was a rarity.
yeah,
A built-in grill was a rarity, and
yeah,
now there's kitchens out there that are far exceed my kitchen in my house.
exactly.
And these projects have structures, they have electrical,
Yeah,
they have TVs, fans, outdoor audio. There's all these aspects now of these products, and we need to, as much as we need to be aware and offering these to our clients, I think we need to be aware of our limitations
yeah,
and when it's time to call in another expert to do it. So
right.
we're all learning here. We're
Yep.
we're we're all learning as we go, and
It,
there are educational opportunities out there. They're scattered. They're somewhat varied in what you land on sometimes when you go to these different events. But you were out at Atlantic City for the Mott Show with Old Castle and EP
right.
Henry, and
Yep.
a very educationally driven event where they built a raised patio. They
Right.
installed you were on the porcelain arena and you were showing the proper techniques for porcelain. Um, I think my dream or my vision is that that type of educational opportunity is replicated in other locations so that we really can elevate customers into like porcelain. I know you take a lot of that second nature because you were in that arena for a few years.
Right.
You are the expert in my mind in terms of porcelain. And I there's still so much fear in the industry to install it because of the processes, the poly sand adherence, all these
Yeah.
little variables. But when it's done right, it's bulletproof. It's like the best. It's
Yeah.
the gold standard, right?
Yep.
Uh, but it's all about education.
Right. And there's, we could go down a whole rabbit hole of connectors and
Mhm.
transformers and voltage drop and all the things that have been issues. But I mean, I think what's interesting, I think that's a whole nother podcast or maybe a webinar. We can maybe figure that out, but
Perfect. Perfect.
that'd be
Save
kind
that
of
one for
fun. Maybe
another
we
day.
should do that. So if, what are some of the, you mentioned audio. I think that's a whole nother like that's something we're looking into. Like, is a whole nother thing we can say. Like, what takes what we're doing to another level. You know, and I think why aren't it's kind of the question, why aren't we incorporating audio when people are, this is going to be the hangout space,
Yeah.
and then because it's huge. If you have a TV, you can Bluetooth to a TV, you can Bluetooth to your phone for music. I mean,
Mhm.
there's so many different things you can do with audio now. It needs to be a part of what people are doing. But like, what's some of the advancements we're seeing? I know color changing, different things like that. What are some of the things you're seeing in lighting that are kind of
Yeah, a
going to a new level?
couple things that are really exciting to me about the industry right now is, we have that traditional accent and path lighting, which is a big part of our industry. But we live in this hardscape arena, so we've been able to focus some of our research and development on hardscape driven products.
Right.
Color changing technology really is something that I thought would be more of a blip on the radar. Like, oh wait, hey, it's great, this changes colors, but it's been very high demand for us as we move into that arena and offer those products.
Right.
Clients love the opportunity, and what's neat about our product, and I think other products out there that offer color changing technology, it's offering dimming, it's offering
Right.
opportunity to change the warmth and the Kelvin warm cool temperature of your lights. It's offering opportunities to create preset scenes. So it's not just the fact that you can make your lights go red or green. It's the fact that you can really control it. One of the number one requests we get is for dimming. We want to have that opportunity to adjust the lighting around our patio like we can in our dining room or our family
Right.
room. And so the technology that we've adopted does allow for the dimming of the lights as well and create a different mood or scene.
Right.
It also allows for Kelvin temperature changing, which you can do some really cool things with certain plant material. Looks better with a cool white versus a warm white.
Right.
Certain hardscape elements look better with a cool white versus a warm white. We've talked about that. Up and coming, we also offer my little pitch, my sales pitch, right?
There you go.
A line of deck lights, and we've seen a big divide between the hardscape and deck industry over the years. Deck guys didn't like hardscapers didn't like the deck guys. Well, now we're seeing more and more projects that integrate decking and hardscape, right?
Sure. Yep.
And in traditional offerings or options in our industry, the deck manufacturers had their own lighting and the landscape lighting was separate. So you needed two transformers, or
Right.
they used the DC versus an AC. Their lights were cool white and our lights are warm white, and so you had this distinct divide between the two elements in the outdoor space, where now you can find products that are in harmony with each other, and you get that warm white all throughout on one
Right.
transformer.
Yep. And as somebody that uses your products, I've done deck lights and hardscape lights, path lights, everything on projects, and they do work really well together. And we can incorporate it at the same time, tie it in behind
Yeah,
under the deck, behind a
and
wall or whatever. So
step three is we're working on a line of structure lights. So now you have a
awesome.
pergola on the project,
Yeah.
and now we can light up the pergola. And
Better not be teasing me with this stuff.
we've got some really cool stuff up our sleeves. So we recognize that we low voltage lighting allows you to install it versus
Right. Yep.
versus hiring an electrician. So
Sure.
we're looking at multiple components in the outdoor space and using a low voltage platform that would really allow that to happen. So
Sure.
so that's coming, and then we are working on some neat stuff happening in the audio realm. I do think it's another really great opportunity in our industry. I think there's a fear factor. You're wading into new waters
Right.
with audio. So the challenge is creating something that is manageable and comfortable for a hardscape or a landscape contractor to jump in, and not overcomplicate it.
Right. And understanding that, like, I've priced some of these different systems, and understanding that, it's not just a Bluetooth speaker,
Right.
or
Right.
or four Bluetooth speakers. It's a system and requires weatherproofing and being able to stay outside all winter and deal with temperature changes and moisture levels, and then you have to have a transformer and an amplifier and a sub,
Yep.
and so, like, if you say it's 2,000 or 2,500 or $3,000 for a system or whatever it ends up being, depending on your the size of it and add-ons and stuff. That's just kind of what it is, but the opportunity is still there, and something that can be added on
Right.
relatively quickly, I would think, with the right training.
Well, and right there it is. Education and support is the key here, and
Right.
we're learning it uh, very quickly with the RGB color technology. It Nothing with this level of technology is plug and play. It requires support, technical support from our end. It requires the contractor to be aware of what they're installing and charge accordingly.
Right.
I have a local contractor here who was he was a little bit of our guinea pig when it came to launching this RGB technology, and we did a few jobs with him, and we worked through some of the bugs. Just as much for us to learn as for him to learn,
Right.
because there are intricacies to the technology. And I ran into him recently, and he's actually selling jobs now with the color technology. And I said, "What do you charge?" And he said, "Double." Because until I cover the spread on the material, I cover the spread on the material,
Yeah.
which there's an increase in cost there, and then the service involved in terms of meeting with the client after hours to set it up on their
Yep.
device, and
Training.
then the inevitable callbacks
Yeah.
when it doesn't quite work the way they think it should work, or there's a glitch or a bump in the system. So, as we offer more opportunities and more unique products to our clients, we need to account for the time and energy it takes, the education to use those products. So, uh,
Absolutely.
contractors are quick to adopt. Homeowner goes on the website, says, "Hey, they have color bulbs," and contractor says, "Sure, I can install those." And next week the phone's ringing, and it's we had a customer in Texas, and I'm not in Texas, I'm in Pennsylvania, right? And I'm
Right.
trying to walk them through on the phone how to set up the lights because the contractor installed them and got in his truck and drove away, and the customer's sitting there trying to figure out how to download the app and set up the lights and go through the process. So, you know, if anything, I can just say, take ownership of these projects, charge accordingly.
Right.
Your time's free. You shouldn't. Your time isn't free.
Yeah.
But if you are going to go down this rabbit hole of these more unique products, be very upfront and very forthright that this is a more complicated project. We're going to have to charge accordingly.
Yep. And I've had very few callbacks on lighting, and I think that's because we try to take the time to do it, set it up correctly,
Mhm.
and all that, and make sure we, we'll start turning lights on and let people kind of get a taste for it as we're installing, and kind of get them excited, get their juices flowing. Even though it may not be completely done, we're for one, we're testing, we're looking how it looks at night. We want to, we get their feedback, and they're always sending pictures and, "Oh, this looks amazing." And then before we leave, we try to do, like, whether it's a Bluetooth transformer or a Wi-Fi transformer, or, most of these, if you set them up correctly, you don't have to mess with them. So I try to give just enough knowledge for them to be able to turn their lights on and off,
Yep.
and show
Yep.
them how we set it up, because you don't really want them tinkering with it, because that's when you really start, oh, like, this is, some of that stuff's pretty plug and play, but there is a level of, education to the client, and that's kind of when we do our, that's something I've been trying to think about working on, is like, is because I'm trying to take our business, even though we're at a good level. I think there's a higher level, and
Yeah.
that means, kind of a walkthrough, and we're handing over their backyard, but we're also handing over, like, instructions on how to run their irrigation or their lighting, or how to run their pool equipment, or what to look for if you see this, and when they should call us. Maybe it's not an emergency, or, that kind of thing. So just kind of another level of education and training for the client, so that they know how to handle things once. I mean, because it's just like, we were talking about earlier, like we're going to assume they know how to operate all these things because we've put
Yeah.
it in and it's pretty easy, but that's
Well,
not
I
always
mean,
the case.
it almost sounds like a silly idea, but we're almost at the point where we need to hand over an instruction booklet to our
Exactly. Yeah.
clients.
Yeah.
And as a contractor, you may have a boilerplate or a file in your computer that you can, this project had an XYZ irrigation system. It had uh, Mirage porcelain. It had Tru-Scapes lighting, and you just click those files, and
Right.
either you print them out or you hand the customer a thumb drive and give them that instruction booklet of how to, step one. I think when you buy a product at Walmart now or somewhere, and you open up the box and it says, if there's an issue, do not return to store, call this
Right.
number.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know you,
Don't call
you
me.
be
Call
the
Jim.
opposite. If you have an issue, go to the thumb drive and see if we can solve this. And I know the relationship you have with your clients is of a very high level. So typically there's a comfort level there where they may text you and say, "Hey, the lights didn't come on last night."
Right.
But really, it's amazing. We're all in manufacturing, right? And we all will have a product here or there that it's a manufactured product. You're going to get a bum paver sometimes. You're going to
Right.
get a bum light bulb sometimes. But honestly, 95% of the calls I get that are follow-up concerns or warranty issues are installation errors.
Yeah.
People cut corners. You mentioned we could do a whole podcast on the components, but wire connections are the headache of all headaches.
Right.
Got people that you got to use waterproof connections. We give you connections in the box, a little sales pitch, right? But we
Yeah.
give you the connections, and guys still don't use them.
Yeah.
They still use regular wire nuts that they had in their truck, and you go out to the job site and they're having an issue. I don't understand why I'm having an issue. And you pull up the connection, and there's a red interior wire nut, and you take off the wire nut, and the copper's all green because
Right.
all the moisture. Like we can't make it any easier, and you guys still fight us. And so I don't know where that disconnect is or where that break is in our industry, where any contractor would take something so simple and throw it in. I mean, you threw those wire nuts away
Yeah.
to go buy something else that was inferior. But
We use them, or we use something that what I would call I would call you and say, hey, we're thinking about going to this connector. That's kind of how I think, because I try to do things, as somebody that's been a dealer rep and a manufacturer rep. Now I understand. I've gotten those calls,
mhm,
and it's like, it's almost better to ask and just say, hey, well, first of all, you sent these connectors with the lights. That must be something you believe will work. Or if
mhm,
I go to from, we've even had this conversation. Like I'll ask you about, like, heat shrink type or different
mhm.
types of connectors, and I want to make sure that if I do that it's still going to be covered by the warranty if something goes wrong, if we put it in right. So I think that's kind of important, where, you can't always depend on the warranty if you're not going to take the time or put the effort in to install it correctly. So
Yeah, we've had I really do go down the checklist now, and listen, I want to work with contractors. I want contractors to be successful. I don't want
yeah.
to. They're the worst calls, right? Because it's a hassle for the contractor. The homeowner's upset.
Right.
We're trying to help. We're trying to get involved. But I just go down the checklist, and here, listen, I'm happy to help you and help you solve this problem. But I just need to know that you're following basic practices.
Right.
Just like when you have a paver failure on a job site, right? It's always the paver's fault. These are bad
Yeah.
pavers,
Right.
and they're the patios like it looks like a wave, and it had nothing to do with the base, right? So it everything we do in this industry, there are proper and correct steps to take, and if you follow those steps, you save yourself a lot of headaches.
Yep.
And so just yeah, yes, I sell lights for a living, but really I love helping our industry grow. When I go out to a job site and meet with a customer, I'm excited to see my product, but I'm also excited to see the project and to see how their business is thriving and how they work with their clients, even and then going to different regions and understanding the current trends, the designs, the plant material, how it all fits together. That's
Right.
exciting to me,
Yeah.
and so um yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yep. And I think that's a good time to transition. We have a couple minutes left, and
Yep.
we kind of we're talking about this. We've been talking about doing this for a few months, probably since I started. So it's just I know you're busy with your travel, and we've even been in the same places a couple times when we've tried to do it there, just to do it live, because I love doing live ones. But I definitely appreciate you taking the time, and I appreciate Tru-Scapes and you supporting what I'm doing with my business, and I've appreciated the relationship, and it was just easy for me to say I'm going to use Tru-Scapes because of our friendship. So
Mhm.
I think some of the thing we talked about was some of the challenges of there may be some reps listening, there may be
Mhm.
other people that are listening, and I think what the reason I've tried to share some of my relationships is sometimes it's more than just a business relationship, it's a friendship, and I feel like that's kind of what we've formed. And a lot of it came from us traveling, and we 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 drove from where did we go? Was it Michigan to St. Louis or
Yeah, we
something?
did like a
Our,
Midwest
I
run
think our
there.
flights were canceled, or my flight
Yep.
got canceled. I don't know what it
Yep.
was, but they got snow up in Michigan, and we had to be in St. Louis the next day. And we just kind of we had to learn how to adapt. We had to learn.
Mhm.
There was times that there's times that you're out enjoying the company of others and having dinners, and there's other times you're like, I experienced times of loneliness, and like
Yeah.
just there's
Yeah.
every city I mean, you're in a different town every day almost. It's like it's a challenge that not a lot of people relate to. And so we kind of formed a friendship, and we were able to reach out to each other or call each other, have a maybe we've had some late night conversations, and it's just like
Yeah.
so I don't know, like what's some of the challenges that you're facing, and that kind of some we kind of leaned on each other a little bit
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah. And I think,
just as a
I think,
traveling rep, I guess.
I think a couple of things there that you brought up that are really critical, or really good topics is one, we're an industry of relationships, right?
Yeah.
We have hundreds of products we can choose from,
Right.
but we tend to go to those who we trust and we can lean on when we need something. And that goes back to where I typically, well, I'll often tell contractors, what should I use? Well, find a local distributor, find a local dealer,
Right.
work with your local rep, because they're the ones that are going to help you when you're in a pinch, right?
Yep.
So I think it really is an industry of relationships. And yeah, it has been an interesting ride. I've thoroughly enjoyed and loved the growth of our company, and getting to go to new places and traveling across the country, and so many good reps that I work with. I've made a lot of great friends, that people I call friends, and it's even tough sometimes when I talk to my wife about what I do,
Right.
because she's not in traveling sales, she's not in that arena, and I'll say, oh, my friend so and so, hey, Craig's calling. Craig, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, Craig,
And it's
and
Sunday again.
yeah, and the there are a lot of perks to what we do, but we're in a very hard, one, this is a tough job. This is a tough industry, right?
Yep.
We work hard. You're out in the field now. You've transitioned into a field position. It's hard. They call it hardscaping for a reason, right? My boss
Yeah.
loves that one, right?
Yeah.
But it's hard work. We're outside typically. We're dealing with the elements and the weather. I have that cushy sales job, right, where I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and people that are not on the road will often say, "Oh, well, where'd you go to dinner last night? Must have been a good,
Yep.
you enjoyed that steak dinner last night." And I said, "Yeah, I really did enjoy that steak dinner, but I missed my family,
Yeah.
because we're all doing the best we can to provide for our families and take care of those around us." And I know it was part of the decision you made to transition back into your local business was, I know you're putting in long days and long hours, but it was
But I'm
important for
home.
you to,
Yeah.
what's that?
But I'm home,
But you're home at night,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it does wear sales reps out to travel a lot. And it's seasonal. In our industry, it really is very busy in the winter. We have a lot of events, a lot of opportunities for training, and it'll settle down here a little bit, and so we kind of roll with that. But yeah, I've always appreciated our friendship, and I said we kind of got thrown together a couple times there, and got to talk about, on the road, and how it
Yeah.
affects those, our families, and I think we share some similar feelings on taking care of our families and faith and those things around us. So
Right.
plus the fact that you're a country music star,
Jeez. I
I
had a
had to
feeling this was going to come up. So.
I had to throw that in there, because at one point I felt stranded.
Oh, geez. Here we go.
Now we have a good time,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
and you've had that opportunity to now evolve into a position of providing education. I've seen you a couple times this winter at different events, and we've even been able to jump in on some of those conversations in front of these contractors, and I really appreciate that too. So it's
Yeah.
been fun.
Yeah. That my transition happened in 2020, where I was just like, you're traveling everywhere, and we had just had an additional baby in 2019, and it was just I was just seeing I was just seeing how much pressure was put on my wife, and
Mhm.
like, and they, she stayed home and took care of everything. And I would try to, book in my weeks a little bit, try to be home Monday or Friday or whatever. But there were
Mhm.
some weeks like, the time you're going in, kind of the show season is ending, if I remember correctly. But like that January through March was just like, I'd be in 4 cities in 5 days, or like,
Mhm.
just going to different shows and all this stuff. And like, it's exhausting. And then you're, like you said, you're eating, you know, decent meals, or you're eating out all the time. All I wanted to do was get home and have a home cooked meal. Like it was, I would have taken macaroni and cheese, spaghetti, all the things that I think of. And my wife makes killer spaghetti, so that's every week. I want that all the time. But it's like, if you think about like what's really going on out there, it can be intense at times, and then other times
Mhm.
it's a little bit more laid back. But like when I came home, and got kind of shut down on the travel, it was in 2020, is when I kind of realized, man, I really have missed being home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was crazy, 4 kids, craziness. The kids are locked in,
Mhm.
doing school at home, and I'm trying to work, and it was through a couple of months of doing that I just realized that I just need to be home with my family. And
Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
and so, but I think my experiences gave me a great appreciation for what my vendors do, what they go through, what, some of these, like yourself and other Mirage reps and there's other reps that I have friendships and connections and stuff with.
Mhm.
And it's just given me a little bit more respect for what they do. And then I try to, hopefully I handle that a little bit, better than I did when I said, "Hey, I don't know who you are, and I don't think we'll ever use your lights."
Yeah, I don't remember it exactly like that, but yeah, no, it has come back to me. I think
uh,
if I recall that day, it was my first event in that market,
yeah.
and I think I had a delayed flight, and it was just like a series of delays that day, and then showed up, and then you just tore me down. I was like, wow, guy just beat me up. But no, what you're saying is dead on, and I mean, I'm very blessed to have an amazing wife who holds down the fort,
Yeah.
and I've only got 2 kids, and she's busy, and you've
Yeah.
got 4, so I can't even imagine, and
Yeah.
so yeah, COVID did change things. We had that sort of bam, we're home now.
Yeah.
But I've seen our industry. I think our industry's over it at this point.
Yep. Yeah. We're back at
The
it.
circuit, the tour's back on, and
Yep.
the big events like H&A are well attended, and so yeah. But we do what we got to do, right? That's what
Yep.
we do to take care of our families and keep going. So
Well, and this format of doing a podcast has given me an opportunity to, and some of the teaching and educational events I've been able to do is given me an opportunity to keep my network alive
yeah,
and talk to my, some of my friends like yourself. And so I appreciate you being on. I think it was a good conversation. And
yeah,
I
it's great.
think, maybe we'll do another one where we kind of talk about more of the educational, or maybe we'll do something live where we can do something like a webinar. I think that'd be kind of fun, where we could maybe go through I don't know. Would you be up for that?
Yeah, I
You don't
think
have to commit to it, but
I've been on your projects. You guys do some pretty amazing work. Maybe coordinating the timing will be the fun part, but
yeah.
it would be great. Anytime we have an opportunity to get on a site and walk through the process. And again, I'm even in the point where I take for granted that people really understand. And again, what we provide is not a very complicated process, right? Our industry is landscape lighting is not an overwhelming
Right.
proposition for a contractor, but there are key elements where you can cut corners and have headaches in the future. And I think the more we can just walk through that process and talk through it, it helps us more. It helps more people in the industry.
Yep. And I think the perception of lighting may be what keeps people from jumping into it. And so if we can do something to educate
Yeah. Well, one
to where
thing I
people,
think we've done well as an industry is we've preserved or given that perception to the homeowner that it's a value add, right? There
right?
there is good
Sure.
margin to be made. There
Yep.
is a little bit of a fear that the homeowner doesn't feel comfortable doing it, so they're going to hire a professional. It's part of this outdoor living space. You'll get your homeowner here and there they'll try and cheat and go to Home Depot and buy the lights, and that's fine, right? There's a portion of people that will always do that, but we have preserved the value of what we bring so that contractors can charge a good margin, a good profit, and provide that product. And it's a lighting. You have Travis on your team now, and he's getting really good at it, and
Yep.
he can install a lighting job in half a day.
Yeah.
And
It's crazy.
it's
Yep.
very profitable arm of our business. So I want to preserve that. I want to preserve the professionalism of it and preserve the value to the homeowner, so that you guys can charge for that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, that's a good place to end it. And I want to say thanks again for your time, your friendship, and your partnership.
Thank you.
And look forward to hopefully seeing you maybe sometime this spring or summer. We'll see each other before H&A. So
I think I heard a rumor that there's an event at the Boulevard Brewing Company coming up in April.
I'll get my sarcastic remarks ready.
Yeah, maybe
Same
you can
place. Let's do it.
put an old shirt on and do a replay. So, no, thank you again, Craig. I appreciate the opportunity as well, and I do look forward to the next time we catch up.
Yeah, see you in about a month, it sounds like. So
Got it. Thank
have
you.
a good one.